The Toronto Maple Leafs have made multiple moves as free agency is now underway, and they've made some key signings, and their blue line is looking a whole lot better than it did just a year ago. So, to break down those signings as well as an interesting goaltender signing that's a little bit surprising. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we do, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. About 70 to 80% of you who are watching aren't subscribed. We just finished up our stream, so shout out to the tons of you who tuned into that. And we're also super close to 11,000 subscribers, so mean the world if you'd hit that button. We'll have you up to date on all the latest news. Darius, tons of news is dropping, tons of news dropped. The Leafs blue line is now taking shape. They have their goaltending situation, their tandem figured out, and they also made another signing. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just dive right into it. Now, we're going to start with Anthony Stolarz. He signed a 2-year deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs at $2.5 million AAV, meaning 2 years, $5 million total. And as the free agency was gearing up over the past couple hours, even into last night before as it was approaching the free agency opening up, Stolarz was the guy that the Leafs were really zeroing in on. Even though Brossoit would have been both of our kind of preference, he ultimately got $3.3 million over 2 years. What are your thoughts on this? We'll get into his stats in a second, but I like the deal.
I like the deal, and I think it might end up being a steal for the Leafs. I think a lot of teams were in on Anthony Stolarz, and the fact that he was able to come to Toronto and they were able to get it done is a good thing. And you're kind of bridging the gap now between right now and Dennis Hildeby maybe in 2 years, right? So I think it's a pretty good signing. Both this player, Anthony Stolarz, and Joseph Woll have above league average save percentages, but obviously they haven't played a lot of games. I think combined they played less than 60 games combined in an NHL season. So something has to give this season on how it's all going to work at net, and I think we'll get a little bit more to that answer later in the video. But some pretty tidy work as time has gone on since the deadline. I was kind of puzzled this morning about some of the moves, but as the hour has gone on, 2 hours have gone on, I'm kind of liking the moves from Brad Treliving so far. Some tidy work, and I really like what they did to the defense as well, which we'll get to.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very solid deal. Can't complain. Low risk, really. We saw his stats that he put up. A very solid save percentage over his season last year. Obviously, was a backup goalie for the Florida Panthers who ultimately won the Cup. He played a little bit of one game in the playoffs, so he wasn't a playoff performer, but a very solid deal. I'm very happy with it. But now let's move on to another deal. And let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on not Ekman-Larsson. That's who we just signed, but on Anthony Stolarz. Also, let us know your thoughts on OEL. Darius, 4 years, $3.5 million AAV. We got a Cup-winning defenseman. He moves the puck well. We got our defensive-minded defenseman in Tanev. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson provides some help to the power play. Better, offensive-minded, I guess you could say, for defenseman. Veteran third. Pairing, 33 years old. I love this deal, especially given, which I'll get into in a minute, some of the other deals that happened specifically regarding Joel Edmondson. It seems like the contracts were super high, and I'll take this contract 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, and a lot of people are attributing more offensively minded to not being physical. Those are two different things, right? Because he's not as defensive. He's still very physical. I thought in the playoffs, he was actually underrated in how physical he was and sometimes dirty. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I noticed him out there, especially in the Stanley Cup final against the Oilers, going after guys and being physical in that way. And I think the Leafs need to add more of that. He's going to bring that on top of obviously the offensive prowess that he possesses, right? He might be the power play quarterback. This could be a Klingberg thing from last year too, but obviously with way more upside, I think. This player, as far as we know, is not injured, and he just won a Stanley Cup. I've been talking about for a long time. The Leafs need to add more guys to the lineup like they did with Jake Muzzin, who've won the Stanley Cup, and he just won the Stanley Cup. So this is a good signing. It's good value for the salary cap that was given, or the salary that was given in this deal. And yes, it's a bit of a longer deal. I think he's going to be 37 once it's done. Maybe they have to get out from under it, somewhere along the line. But for the time being, they recognize that they're in a cup window they can win in the next 3 years. So I like this signing. It's going to be good for the Leafs. And he'll probably play in a little bit of a sheltered role too. We don't know how it's going to shake out with the defense pairings, but the defense with this player looks a lot better, obviously with Tanev as well.
Yeah, we saw Joel Edmondson get 4 years, 3.8, I believe, $1 million AAV, and I'd rather Oliver Ekman-Larsson as a player, especially for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you look at his J-Fresh chart, like very solid stuff. He's going to be the quarterback for the power play in all likelihood. He still is okay at defense. Obviously, he's more offensive minded, but he's been physical, and we watched it in the playoffs. He won a Stanley Cup. He threw his body around, and he is 33 years old, and that's one scary thing is the age for a lot of these guys. And you can see Oliver Ekman-Larsson here. 32 points, 80 games, and you mentioned it, Darius. He's about to be 33 in just like 12 days there, or very, very soon. So I'm excited about this deal. I really am. When you look at the rest of the deals that were going on around the NHL, you're looking at guys like Joel Edmondson and just even Jake DeBrusk, who's obviously not a defenseman, but just how inflated the market has become where Jake DeBrusk is getting 7 years at $5 million or whatever he got. You got to be happy with the work that Brad Living did so far this today, really. And even with Max Domi, obviously the Tanev deal is a little bit pricey. It goes a little bit longer than some of us were expecting. But for OEL, I am personally very happy. He got less money than Joel Edmondson, who, in my opinion at least, is not the better player, especially with the intangibles that Oliver brings. Any quick thoughts before we move on to the blue line? How it's looking right now? A lot better.
Yeah, the blue line looks a lot better, especially with this. And, there's some question marks surrounding Liljegren as well. We weren't big fans of that signing yesterday. And will he get traded? That might be something that goes down in the next couple of days, too, because the salary cap right now is not matching up with the Leafs lineup. They still have quite a few holes, even though they figured some things out so far today. So we got to keep an eye on that, too. But I am happy with OEL. I like that signing. And like I said, as time is slowly going on today, I'm liking it more and more. I think it might be a pretty good fit, and it's going to be better than the Klingberg experiment for sure. He put up some decent numbers last year in Florida, and obviously he won a Stanley Cup, right? Like that's something that you can't teach. You have to experience it. So I think it's going to be good for the Leafs. I'm excited for this new look blue line to get to work next season.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Riley, Tanev, Benoit McCabe, OEL, and Liljegren. It's the best blue line we've had in a while. We discussed that a lot during our stream. Like, it's objectively a very, very strong blue line. Obviously, Liljegren is debatable. And then Benoit, seeing how much he can sustain. We saw last year he was very solid in the second pairing. But can he sustain that over a full season? It seems like it's asking a lot of him. But he played so well last year that maybe we can ask a lot of Simon Benoit. So let us know what your thoughts are on that, on the signing in general. I'm very, very happy with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I am super happy with Anthony Stolarz as well. And speaking about goaltending, they also signed Matt Murray to a 1-year, $875,000 deal. And this kind of relates to the Stolarz signing a little bit as well. And I want to get your opinion on the current goaltender situation. We have 3 goalies now. Joseph Woll is presumed to be the 1A. You have Stolarz kind of being the 1A, alongside, kind of similar to Ilya Samsonov last year, because both of them, like you mentioned, have played less than 60 games. It's good. It's also a little bit worrying, and that's why they have Matt Murray, who has tons of NHL experience, in case these guys get injured or they're not ready to play every single day. You have Matt Murray as the third backup, similar to what Martin Jones was last year, but with a bit more, I guess, technically upside given his past experience, but kind of similar to Martin Jones.
I like this deal because I think the Leafs needed a third goaltender, and they already had it in the system in Matt Murray, right? And when he plays, when he's healthy, he has been pretty good, right? He's put up pretty average numbers, and I don't think they're going to lean on him to be anything special this year. So in his role, it's going to be pretty good. This is the way I look at it this year. They said that they want to work with Joseph Woll on staying healthy. And when I look at what MLSE and the Toronto Raptors did with Kawhi Leonard that year he was here, I wonder if they put a lot of resources into something like that. Keep Joseph Woll healthy. He plays, half the games. Stolarz plays maybe a third of the games or something. And if you need Matt Murray to come in, if there is an injury or something, you have him there. And if he's able to stay healthy, he has been average throughout the years, so it's okay. And waiting in the wings, you have Hildeby too, who's promised to be pretty good, even if he has to come in for a game or two this season. So I think you can get the playoffs with this current plan in net for sure. I think it's, they're going to be a really good team again. They're going to make the playoffs. And, looking into the future and in the playoffs, they think Woll is the guy anyway. So if he can stay healthy, I like the plan for the Leafs so far. They're not overspending at the position for so many years because they know that somebody's coming up in Hildeby later on.
Yeah, Stolarz put up very good. Obviously, this is one playoff game was rough, but very good, very, very good stats with the Panthers in his 27 games last year, 2.03 goals against average. So very interesting. Going to be interesting to see what they do going forward. And let us know what your thoughts are on the Matt Murray signing. Brossoit ultimately got 2 years, 3.3. So maybe the Leafs could have spent a bit more and got him. But ultimately, a bigger move is going to be coming, and we'll have you up to date with all of that. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you very soon.